17 tribes that came down. I can't remember what year, of course I wasn't there. And, settled it. And over the years, they were very much controlled by Sweden until the early part of the, around the 1800s. Then they went back and forth, and the Russians took over, and they weren't happy, and they had a few revolutions, and they'd always fight with Russia. And they had a lot of fights with Russia. They never won any, but they sure did try hard. Just that Russia was so much bigger than them. And over the different periods, for different reasons, they had their generals start strikes, and there are times that the Russians didn't like it, so a lot of people took whatever they could to leave. So there was different times that they came to America. One of the earliest times was about 1638, when they came into Delaware in a place I think they called it New Sweden. And they settled in there, and a lot of people don't know it, but the Finns are credited with building the first log cabin in this country. And I think there's some historical markers out in Delaware that give that as a fact. And, you know, they were around, but one of the descendants of these originals, they kind of melded into the population and got around when they got here. But one of the descendants of some of those that landed in Delaware, I think the name of the guy was John Martin, was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Or at least, you know, we claim him to be. Another one that is claimed by a lot of Finns to be of Finnish heritage was John Hanson, who I always dispute and say was our first president in this country. Everyone says it was George Washington, but they forget about the Articles of Confederation. There was quite a few different presidents under the Articles of Confederation, and George Washington sent John Hanson a letter congratulating him to be our country's first president. But it wasn't under the Constitution, so it's not considered. But nonetheless, it's a fact. But a lot of people, you know, they came over, they were hard workers and such, and they settled in, well, Michigan has the highest population, but they also settled out in Oregon. It's funny, they seem to settle wherever blueberries grow. They like the blueberries, and the blueberries took a good part in the Cullabella with the birth of the Virgin Mary. She swallowed a blueberry, and you know, this is the version from the Cullabella how we ended up with the child Jesus. A book I have not been able to get through. I swear I will someday. But there were several factions of Finns, and one thing they did very, very often, no matter where they were, was build halls. The Finns built halls, and they did a lot of dances. There was a center of the community, and did a, you know, they did theater, they did all kinds of things, and I'm not saying they kept to themselves, but there was a lot of that, and they always had the halls. And, they were very much for the workers, and before, you know, in the early days, the Republican Party was a little different than it is now, and until 1938, Finns in this country, by and large, were Republican. And then when FDR came in, they switched to being Democrats. And in for a lot of social justice, a lot more socialists. There's a lot of history about the Socialist Party and the and you know, in this country and where they went, and the religious, you know, the Lutherans, the Laestadians, you know, there's different factions all over the place, and some of which is still out there. Around here, you've got the Apostolic Lutheran Church, and where Christina is living out west, she lives in the heart of a bunch of Laestadians, which is kind of strange because there aren't that many around, so it's kind of funny how she landed there. Oh, and also close to where she lives out in Oregon is Astoria, which is a real neat town full of Finnish history, and saunas on Main Street, and a lot of things that are cultural to Finnish history, shops and such. There's so many things that, you know, you could go into, you know, with the Finnish heritage. If you go into the, like our names, our name Salmi means straight, S-T-R-A-I-T. And Finns always took the name of the house that they lived in. So it got kind of confusing when you moved, you changed your name. But the church kept the records over the years and did a pretty good job of it. So if you want to go back into your family history, you can go back and see where you came from or whatever. And they kept the baptismal records and all the rest of it. You know, we've had some relatives go over there and do that. I do not know what Escalon means, unfortunately. Maybe Alan does and can get into that. But, you know, people change their name a lot. The Salmi name, I know we changed for political reasons. We came over here and then everybody started on the same stuff again. That'd be, you know, the thing. Okay. I don't know, is there any questions or?
What about the
Oh, Alan's gonna ask you. Do you know what it means, Bob? What the Escalon
I
name is?
have no idea.
It could have been the name of the house.
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah.
Most probably was, but, you know, I don't know, you know, in Finnish, you know, I wouldn't know what it
I don't
is.
even know what it is.
Yeah.
No, I looked on the net and it's a little bit debatable. It may have been from one town and it got changed a little bit over time and that sort of thing. It seems to be more from the eastern side of Finland though.
Yeah. Yeah, the Finns came over in different waves too. You know, in the early days it was the northern Finns that came over first, and then I think the economy got bad and the southern Finns came over. So, you know, by the names you can almost tell, you know, somewhat, you know, when the